This lesson is part of a series for a New Mexico State University creative media class. The 3D modeling software we're using is Google Sketchup. The end result of the lessons is a contraption mounted onto a platform. Student platforms will then be fastened onto a 3D printed geodesic dome, and stop motion animation will then make all the contraptions come alive. This lesson is to serve as an example of how to create contraptions. The first thing we need to do is to go to the class's website and download the platform that the contraption will be built on. So the web address is mounttaylor.com/3D. And notice that the word mount is spelled out. And I'll move this up here where we can see it. Here is the file that we're going to download. I'll do a right click on it and click Save Target As. And I'm going to save this on the SD card. Okay, now we don't need the web page anymore. I'll get into SketchUp, and we'll wipe out this build volume diagram, and we'll get into parallel projection for the camera. Okay, now I'll open up that file that we downloaded. Here it is. Okay, so this is the platform that we're going to be building the contraption on. I'm going to get the orbit tool and rotate things around where we can work with it a little better. I'll hold down the Shift key and scoot this back up a little bit and make it nice and big. Big makes things easy. Okay, line tool next. And I'm going to make the base for a bracket that's going to hold an axle that the contraption will spin around. So I'm going to go over here. I'm drawing lines from one vertex of these diamond-shaped holes to the other. And notice that the line is green. I'm going to go all the way out to the edge here, then back up here. Now notice when I went up here at SketchUp's inference engine, showed me a green dotted line here, so showing that if I make a line here, it'll be parallel to this other line. Okay, we've got a base now. We need to raise it up, and for all the things that we're going to be building in this lesson, we're going to be using 1/8" thickness. That's a good compromise. It's strong enough, and it doesn't take too long to 3D print. I'm going to get the push-pull tool over here, and we'll raise that up. And now I'll type 1/8 and press Enter. Okay, that's now 1/8 inch thick. Now we need to drill a hole in here. This contraption is going to be mounted on here with 632 screws. That's the size of the screw and the number of threads. So I need to know where to make the hole in this bracket base. I'm going to rotate the drawing up here, and I'm going to make things a little bit larger. Okay, line tool, and I'm going to get the center of that hole there. And I'm moving this around so that there's a blue axis there. Blue means that that's a vertical line. Okay, then the orbit tool. So that line is, it's like we stuck a wire up through that hole, through this block right here. Okay, now I'm going to use the circle tool. I press the C on the keyboard, but you can also go over here to the icon, the circle tool. Now, the 632 size screws, if you drill a hole that has a radius of 0.078, then it works out nicely. So I'm going to drag this out, and I'm going to type in 0.078 and then press enter. So that's the right size hole that we need. We no longer need this this construction line that we created. The next thing I'm going to do is use the push-pull tool to move this, to make the hole. And I'm going to stop anywhere along this edge here. I could even stop on this edge over here. It doesn't matter. Now I'm going to use the orbit tool to be sure that everything worked out okay. It looks like it did. And no funny stuff on the bottom either. Now usually what you want to be doing, especially when you're just starting out with SketchUp, is before you draw the next thing, you want to make this thing into a solid. I'm going to triple click, and if you triple click right, everything should be highlighted blue. Now I right click and make group. And the entity information window here, I'm going to open that up, and it says solid group. That means we have created something that can be 3D printed. If it doesn't say solid group, you can't 3D print it. Now I'm going to make the vertical part of the bracket. I'm giving myself a little room here. And I'm going to use the rectangle tool. And we want to make this vertical part of the bracket 1/8 inch thick. So I'm going to start with the corner over here, then go down to this corner here. Now we don't know whether, see, we want from the edge of that rectangular solid to this black line, we want that to be 1/8 of an inch. And we could, but we also need to know what the other dimension is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click, and down here for the dimensions on the rectangle, it gives 0.789. That's obviously the long side of the rectangle. This is the shorter side of the rectangle, and we want to make this 1/8 of an inch. So it turns out what we do is we type a comma, and then 1/8. That means the first dimension of the rectangle is going to stay the same. So now we have a rectangle that's 1/8 of an inch wide. I'm going to use the tape measure tool over here, just to double check that. Okay, click. Okay, 0.125 is the decimal equivalent of 1/8 of an inch. Next, I'm going to get the push-pull tool and raise this up. I'm going to make it 2 inches tall. And next thing is to drill a hole through this thing where the axle is going to be. See, there's going to be an axle across here, and there's going to be a thing kind of like a chicken on a roasting spit kind of a deal. I'm going to draw a construction line. Notice it's red. That means it's parallel to the red axis. And the reason I drew that construction line is so that the hole that I make will be centered. So notice when I fish around here, at a certain point it snaps to it, and it says midpoint. Okay, this is going to be a 632 screw also. Now, SketchUp remembered that it's 0.078 inches, the last hole that we made. If it didn't, we would just simply type in 0.078 again. We don't need that construction line anymore, so I'm going to erase it. I'll get the eraser tool over here. And the part that we want to erase is inside that little circle on the lower left, well, the corner of the eraser tool. Push-pull tool over here. We'll pull this thing back over here like so. And notice I stopped with the point of that red arrow, I stopped with it on this line here. That's telling it to, when it makes the hold and it gets to this point, the plane that this is on here, it'll stop there. And it's always a good idea to check what you've done with the orbit tool. And I pressed O on the keyboard. That's a shortcut to get the orbit tool. I could have also gone over here. Okay, it looks like we got a real live hole. Now when you tilt things up a lot, then we're looking at the sky. So you can see the sky through that hole there. Now again, we want to make this a solid before we do anything else. So triple click, and then right click, and make group. And notice it says solid over here. Now I'm going to combine these two things. I'll hold down the shift key. The vertical one is already selected. I'll hold down the shift key and click the bottom part. Now it says that there's two solid groups selected. Next, I'm going to go over to Tools and Outer Shell. And notice things look a little different here, and it says Solid Group 1 in the model. That's what we want to see. Now, instead of having to build another bracket like this on the other side, I'm going to make a copy of the bracket, and then we'll flip it around. So I get the Move tool over here, these 4 arrows. And I'm just going to, I click there, and if we don't want to move it like that, we want to make a copy. So I'm going to hold, down at the bottom of the screen it says Control toggles whether it makes a copy or not. I'm going to hit the Control button on the keyboard, and now I've got a copy we're not moving the original around any. So I've just got it over here where I can mess with it. And I'm going to get the select tool. You can get that by pressing the space bar, or you can go up here and click on it. Now a right click, and flipping basically makes a mirror image. And I always have a hard time knowing whether I want to flip around the red or the green or the blue. So I just keep on trying them until I get one that works right. I'll try red. Red didn't work, okay. Right click, flip along green. Okay, green worked. This is what we're wanting. I'm going to use, now notice when I made a copy of this thing over here, there was a green line showing me that parallel to the green axis. Now if I move this thing back, I'm going to grab a hold of this corner here, and if I stay on the green line again, notice it says on green axis. If I stay on that green line again, then when I get over to the edge here, then everything will be lined up just perfectly. So let's scoot this thing around and see, we can see that the holes line up nicely. Okay, I pressed the space bar. I'm going to click outside here to make all these blue lines go away. Now we need to make the thing that's going to be spinning around on this axle, and we need to know where to place that thing. So I'm going to make a construction line, starting from the center of this hole and going parallel to the green axis. And when you're trying to find the center of something, sometimes you need to make the picture big. I get the line tool, and I'm pausing briefly on the edge of this circle here, the circumference of the circle. And when I go in there, it says center in group. That means we found the center of that circle. And now I'm going to go all the way over here, and I'm going to pause on the outside circle on this one and choose center in group. And you see that line, now, I'll see this line here, it stops even with that surface. The other line over here stops even with this surface. Now we need to make a vertical plane when we want to draw things that are going to be vertical. So I'm going to, instead of using the rectangle tool, I'm going to use the line tool. Okay, line tool. Now notice it's still trying to draw a line from the end of the line that I just finished drawing. I'll press the escape button on the keyboard. Now it's not trying to do that anymore. And I'm going to start at the midpoint of this line that we just drew. I'm going to go along the red axis. Now this is what I call a construction plane that we're creating. We're going to end up erasing the plane. So it doesn't really matter how big you make the thing. I'm going to make it nice and big. I clicked. Now I'm going to go up along the blue axis, and I need a little more room here. So notice I used the orbit tool, and now I want to go back to creating the line. You click the line tool, and see it didn't go away, it's still there. I'm going to go up nice and high, and then over parallel to the red axis. And I'll press escape to tell it we're through drawing that line there. And I want a plane that comes up pretty close to this here. So line tool again, and I'm just eyeballing this. Yeah, it looks like it's going to work. I'm pressing O for orbit tool, and then I'll press L for line tool. And I'm going to go down here until it starts getting mixed up with this stuff down here. And I'm going to click to plant that end of the blue line that we just created. And we want a red line now. And notice the inference engine says, oh, he might want to draw a line that goes along here and ends up with this point here. So click, and now we've got a line going up like so. Escape key is make it stop drawing lines. Okay, orbit tool. I pressed O to get the orbit tool. Now we don't need this this line in here. So eraser tool. We'll wipe out that line. And see, I'm really wanting to have a plane that's filled in, you know, that's shaded. And sometimes when you're doing stuff with SketchUp, it fails to fill something in. While I'm at it, I'm going to get rid of this line over here. Now, when SketchUp fails to fill something in, you get the line tool, and you just draw on top of a line that's already there. And see, it filled it in. That's the way to tell SketchUp that, hey, you really want it filled in. Next, I'm going to draw a circle that will tell me just how big I can make this a goofy looking thing that's going to be riding on this axle that we have here. So circle tool over here, and I'm just going to keep on going until we get to the edge of this thing that I created here. Now it went a little bit beyond that, so I guess really, so we want to have this circle inside of that rectangle. Now, if I draw something inside that circle, we know it's not going to hit this any part of this platform. Now, we don't need the construction plane anymore. I'm going to get the eraser tool and erase the corners. Just takes 2 clicks to do that. Now, what I want next is to make a hole in this this circular plane right here, and it's going to be a 0.078 inch radius hole, clearance hole for a 632 screw. Okay. Circle tool, Here, we'll just drag that out a little bit and click, and then you don't have to you don't have to go down here and click down here. You just simply type in 0.078, and now it's got the right size hole there. I'm going to get rid of this construction line that we have here. Eraser tool, click on that part there. Now, okay, it happened to erase the whole construction line. I'm using the orbit tool right now. What I'm going to do next is erase the center of that hole there. So I press the space bar to get the select tool. I'm clicking in here. Now I ended up getting the edge instead of the center. So I'm making things bigger so I can see what I'm doing better. Okay, space bar to get the arrow tool. And now I wanted to get the inside of the circle, not the edge of the circle. I'm going to press the delete button on the keyboard, and now we have a hole in this thing. The next thing I'm going to do is create some odd shaped thing that's going to be spinning around on this axle. You know, when we use the stop motion animation to make it move. I'm going to press L on the keyboard to get the line tool. And I'm just going to start up here, and I'm just going to do something that looks kind of weird. Now you want to have it say on face. If it doesn't say on face, then you may end up with a line that is sticking up off the surface of this circular plane. Okay, and okay, we want to have it say on face. Now this kind of thing where it says from point, sometimes, okay, I accidentally clicked. I'm going to do an undo. I'm going to hold down the control button on the keyboard and press Z, which does an undo. Notice it says on face, and it's still drawing a line. I'm going to go up to the edge here. It doesn't say on face, but when you click on the edge here, then that's going to work out okay. And we'll just keep on making weird looking stuff. Okay, L for line tool. Okay, now if this doesn't shade in, like it just did now when I clicked on it, that means that one of your lines is sticking up in the air. So the way you find out if that's what's happening is I pressed O on the keyboard to get the orbit tool, and then you can kind of look. Everything should be lying flat on that circular plane. Next, I'm going to erase the lines of the circle itself. Eraser tool over here. I could also type E for erase. And we'll center that little circle on that line there, that part of the circle. And we'll just erase all the parts of the circle that we don't want. And so here's this weird looking thing that we have. I'm going to make it 1/8 of an inch thick. I'll type P for push-pull tool. And go out a little bit, then I'll just type 1/8. That looks about right. The next thing is I'm going to make it into a solid. I did a real quick triple click there. Right mouse button, make group, and we check over here on the entity information. It says solid group. Now the axle is actually going to be a 632 screw, but just to kind of help visualize what we're doing here, you see we might want to add onto this thing, add more things onto the axle or whatnot. So I'm going to make an axle here in SketchUp, even though we're not going to be printing the axle, but just to kind of help us think about things. So I'm turning this around where I can get to this this circle right here. I'm going to get the circle tool, And I'm going to pause on the edge here. Now notice it tries to make the circle some other colors. We want it to be green, and it should look circular instead of elliptical. Okay, we found the center. I clicked. Now I'm going to go out here to the edge and click again, and it filled that hole in. We can use the push-pull tool on that. We'll go up here, push-pull tool, and we'll just keep on going out here. And then we can go again, we can push-pull it the other direction also. And we might as well make it a solid so that nothing's going to stick to it if we add things onto it. I did a triple click, right click, and make group. So this is one kind of contraption that you can have with a horizontal axle. You see, we want to have something that we can move. So with the stop motion animation, we'll take a still picture. The camera will be on a tripod, and then we'll, after we've 3D printed all this, and this will be an actual piece of plastic. Then we'll move this just a little bit, then snap another still picture, move it a little bit more, snap another still picture, that kind of thing. And we'll need to have this thing so that it kind of holds its place. So we'll be putting a nut here and a washer, and we'll tighten, and probably over here too. And we'll tighten those things up so that we can still move this thing, but so that it won't slip back down when we take our fingers off. Now the next lesson will be, we'll pick up where this lesson left off. The next lesson is going to be getting these things ready to print. And we basically need to have this guy lying down flat. And turns out we need to make a diamond-shaped holes for these guys here. Or actually, we can make a diamond-shaped hole down here. Okay, anyway, that's the end of this lesson.